What's up, you squares? Back again with you for another video. Things are starting to pick up a little bit. You know, you can't give your hopes up in Washington, of course, but looks like people are getting scared. It's not that things are being done, but they are. But the main thing that you can read is people obviously read the tea leaves, but it's almost like read the tear leaves now, because whoever's crying is who thinks they're being come after, or being sought after, rather. And I think it's funny to watch the people that I don't like, as well as people that are guilty, start to fear justice. So you see in the news, they always made their rounds. Brennan, Clapper, Comey, all them. And I used to think, are you serious? Contributing, whatever analyst, new contributing surveillance, intelligence, whatever. And you're like, John Brennan, why are you not in fucking prison? This is the guy that's like, well, we don't spy on American citizens. And he said it just the other day. I mean, are you serious, dude? No one's falling for your shit. Especially no one, you know, that's in my clique, Political Dankhouse. There's my tags. If you follow me, if you discuss, if you're in my comment section talking, you know, we're not a bunch of retards, so tell Brennan it ain't gonna work. He's not gonna be able to go in there and say, well, that was my past life, that was this was that. Someone like that with the voting record of a communist, and he's a carrying member, and he's got allegiances to Arabic countries. Already got sworn in on the Quran and things like that. These are significant cultural differences in the way that we want our country run. And this is not just someone on the sidelines talking. This is someone well connected with the CIA, the NSA. He wasn't in it, but they're in communications with each other. If the CIA needs someone that they're surveilling and they need info on it, who do you think they call? Not Ghostbusters, they call the NSA. And we know how bad things can be with the NSA. That's where we first heard about Brennan, a lot of them, and Clapper, and not Comey, but Hayden, the three musketeers, so to speak, of Spygate, or what allowed the items utilized in Spygate. They allowed them to, Obama administration at the time, to surveil private citizens. So not only were they legalizing things like Propaganda Act, Smith-Mundt Act, they repealed it so that you could have propaganda to the public and then included in the news. So it was 2013, and now everybody, let's say it's been 3 years. It took them 3 years to 2016 to start giving a shit about that, apparently. And, you know, but not only that, the pincer attack was coming from inside the intelligence community too. And a lot of these people are on CNN now, like they were, you know, Philip Mudd and all these people, and they get meaner and meaner and more nasty, and they sound like cornered rats, you know, squealing on each other. It won't be long. But I think that Brennan, Clapper, and Hayden and others are trying, and Comey too, especially, because remember, he was fired by President Trump after 3 times to say, I'm not under investigation, just tell him, and he wouldn't. They're all in this thinking, all right, which one of us is going to take the hit? This is the part where the gang or the mafia or whoever knows that someone's coming after them and they're about to close in on them. They need one guy to fall so that they can keep it going, and hopefully they'll get out or whatever. If we dealt with treason today like we're supposed to, that wouldn't even be an option, because no one would be getting out of prison to regroup with the other spies or criminals, so to speak, because, you know. But I wanted to talk about all that so I could say this. This is where I was making my memes. And, well, you didn't see it so good. It was just, Cenk Uygur popped up for some reason. And it's showing Michael's elbow. There we go. This is Barr's exclusive talks to Fox News, right? It was May 17th. This is 2 days ago. It's Friday.
I remember at the hearing about a month ago, you said you're still trying to get your head around everything. What are you trying to figure out?
Well, the first step is find out exactly what happened. And we're trying to get our arms around that, getting all the relevant information from the various agencies, and starting to talk to some of the people that have information. You know, the thing that's interesting about this is that this was handled at a very senior level of these departments. It wasn't handled in the ordinary way that investigations or counterintelligence activities are conducted.
Y'all hear that? This is one of the main things that scares Democrats is, well, Democrats, because they were the ones that's pushing this narrative the most with the Russiagate. And no, you weren't spied on. Remember in the New York Times, they said President Trump wiretapped for security reasons, whatever, right? And then I can't remember who the guy was, Charles Mantel something, but he was the one who called it out that they had went back in time after Trump started saying wiretapping, and they said, we never said that, Obama never said that, that's never been printed. They went back and retroactively changed to something about surveillance, right? They took out quote-unquote wiretapping, which is very disingenuous, but they're losing the narrative, and people are starting to realize that people need to investigate the investigators, which is what we've all been waiting for, us from the very beginning that thought this is a load of crap, right? And so the way he's talking, his rhetoric is scaring the people, not because it's violent or vitriolic. It's one of those where, shit, he's really going to turn around and see what we did. And what they've done is indefensible, at least if they get caught or justice is served, right? He said he wants to look into how things were gotten. A lot of things were gotten through illegal means. Let's say if a cop, this is like security, right, and surveillance. Let's say if a cop were to bust into your house without a warrant, if they found drugs, you could still fight that they had drugs because they illegally went into your house and wouldn't have found it had they, not been able to go in there or waited until they got a warrant, so to speak. A lot of these FISA warrants that they're talking about were signed off for by senior executives and they knew better that this wasn't anything but a political spying and political opposition research. A lot of people like Veselnitskaya, the woman they wanted to get either, I thought it wasn't Papadopoulos. I think it was, yeah, it was trying to swoon Papadopoulos. I don't know if this is the same one, but there was one that tried to meet in Trump Tower with Don Jr. for opposition information on Hillary Clinton campaign. And what the FBI will not tell you is that Obama, who is at the top, knew about this, but they all had to sign off on her visa, a work visa for her to come in from Russia. So there's no way that they couldn't have been involved in any way with her and keep it from looking like a setup, which it was. But they couldn't even pretend that it wasn't a setup because she was in their radar, in their circles. She literally had to go through them to get permission to be in the United States. And this is what he's talking about when he says we need to look at the senior executive levels because this wasn't a ground level. Wow, something's a little weird here, sir. Oh, okay. Boss, deputy, all the way up the line. This was done from the top without the, steamrolling and not using the other low levels. That's why you hear a lot of people want to say, well, Trump's attacking the FBI. They still want to pretend like, well, it's got integrity. We all know what he's talking about. He's talking about the top rung of these agencies, these alphabet agencies that have been politicized. And I think they have been for a long time.
It was sort of an ad hoc small group, and most of these people are no longer with the FBI.
All these people, Strzok and Page and all them, he's saying they're resigning, they've been fired.
This appears to run deep.
So it's suspicious.
Why is it so hard to figure out?
Well, there are two things here. One, no one's really looked at it. I think there's a misconception out there that we know a lot about what happened. The fact of the matter is, Bob Mueller did not look at the government's activities. He was looking at whether or not the Trump campaign had conspired with the Russians, but he was not going back and looking at the counterintelligence program.
That's big right there. Now, of course, Barr, he comes in and people have a lot of valid criticisms of him, or they're worried that he's done stuff for the Bushes and covered up, I think he had something with Ollie North done, or he was Iran Contra. He's back in that time. He's been around since Mueller time, and that's a lot of worries is that he's been colleague with him for 30 years. His wife, Barr's wife, and Mueller's wife are in the same Bible study, like just to get you an idea in Washington how close the circles are. Am I afraid that that will impact their work? No, but it's just something to take into consideration. And it's real funny that a lot of people are acting like he's attacking Mueller or that they don't talk to each other. And it's been a month since Mueller and Barr talked. There's people that go to college, right, or they go to work, or they move to another state, and all of you out here watching, you've got brothers and sisters. There's times when you won't talk to your family for a month. You're not mad at them. I have people in my family that are in the service, and we don't talk to them for a long time, months at a time. And when they call us or answer the phone, we don't go, "Oh, I'm sorry," or "Please don't be mad at me." Life happens. And especially if you're as busy as these two are, even Mueller, I'm not for Mueller, but I'm not going to say that he's lazy, that he's not working. He's working maybe in ways that I would rather him not. But these two are busy, and if anything, if they said they had been in communications, the people complaining would say that they were like this then, and then that would be called into question. But they haven't been. Mueller hasn't spent all this time on all of it, and you can't. It's only been for the election, and now you have to go back to why you had even had that discussion. See, what happens is someone calls into the police and calls in a report that something had happened, right? So-and-so beat him, right, or whatever, and if they can come and prove that there was no physical violence, no assault, they have to go to the person who called it in and say, "Why did you do this? What made you think this?" This is what Barr's doing. Barr is going back saying, now that we have not found any obstruction or collusion, and Mueller has signed off on that. This is a very unredacted report that they've released. They didn't have to do it, and they did. So now they have to go back as to, well, who are the ones that told us we needed to investigate? Because that's, think of it in terms of false alarm. And it would be the administration under Obama, and that's who he's talking about. A lot of these people are not a part of the agencies anymore. They've either been fired or resigned. Strzok, Page, all these people, McCabe, they're all under investigation or they're getting lawyered up. Same with Brennan and Hayden and Clapper and all them. I would be getting 4 or 5 lawyers, and you'll hear that in this video I'm watching next after this.
And we have a number of investigations underway that touch upon it, the main one being the Office of Inspector General that's looking at the FISA warrants. But as far as I'm aware, no one has really looked across the whole waterfront.
So you came into this job and you started asking questions. Did you get any answers?
Well, I thought when I came in from the outside that all the questions that I had and many other people had that would be readily answered.
What he's saying is there's some people, I don't know if he's playing coy or being professional or political in the sense of, polished, but there's a lot of people that think that they, like me or others, that would say, oh, they found stuff, it's just on the other people that they didn't like. And that's true. So Mueller didn't release that. That's what we would think. And people like Barr, if he's coming at it from the ultra, middle of the road or objective viewpoint, he said, what if they didn't find anything at all? Because they didn't investigate. People like you and I may think they investigated, they found what they didn't want and made their people look bad, and they hid it from us. Somebody like Barr is saying whether they did that or, in his case, think that they just glossed over it or they missed it. He wants to go back and see.
Once I got in, but I haven't found that to be
these questions that he's been asked are not even ready for answers.
Going on the Trump campaign.
Conspiring.
When do you think that started?
Well, I'm not going to speculate about when it started. We're going to find out when it started.
It's been said that it was July of 2016. Does that sound right to you?
Again, I don't want to speculate. What I will say is that
a lot of people would call this dodging, and I understand it, because if you don't like somebody, you're going to look for things like that. But to me, and the stutter, and people like to mock that, I only mock people when they do that when they're lying. With Barr, you can tell it's this, it's kind of erudite and seems like a good old boy, right? And I'm allowed to say that term because I'm not being a dickhead about it. He seems like he's in the cool kids club of Washington. He's very veteran in the sense that he knows how to watch his language. We saw whenever it was that video that when they got him in on this, right? And he said, I think spying on a campaign is wrong, whatever. And they said, what'd you say, Barr? And he said, do you think spying happened? He goes, I think spying, I think spying did occur. It's not that he's, an idiot or anything. He's thinking, do I really want to say this shit? Do I really want to let them know where I stand? Because they're going to flip. And they have. Remember, they've had for the past month well, it's not spying. It's well, what would you call it? Unauthorized surveillance. That sounds better. It reminds me of the. It's not colored. It's colored people, and it's not colored people. It's people of color. What the fuck? Who cares? It's hair splitting.
You know, I've been trying to get answers to questions, and I found that a lot of the answers have been inadequate, and I've also found that some of the explanations I've gotten don't hang together. So in a sense, I have more questions today than I did when I first started.
Some of what things don't hang together?
Some of the explanations of what occurred.
Why does that matter?
Well, because I think people have to find out what the government was doing during that period.
It's true.
If we're worried about foreign
all our money got
influence,
spent.
For the very same reason, we should be worried about whether government officials abuse their power and put their thumb on the scale.
I like this approach that he's going towards, and whatever you think of the politics of, say, him or people he hangs around with, that mindset is good. He said, if we're worried about foreign influence from a government, coming from Russia, say from the outside in, why not from the inside out? Because we all know there's subversiveness. If people want to say that, oh, Russia or China's overtaken our government stealthily, right? Eventually they're going to be the enemy from within, and that's the people he's talking about. I don't think that they're doing that now. I think it's rogue agencies in the U.S. government of American and, you know, maybe dual citizenship type people and people that come in on visas that are really spies. Spooks and all that, but well, he's right. Why not take the home offense just as serious?
And so I'm not saying that happened, but
being
I'm
real
saying that we
careful.
have to look at that.
Can you say when Bob Mueller knew there was no...
It's Mueller because he's German.
No, I couldn't say that.
No date given?
No, I couldn't say when he knew. Obviously, one of the big challenges we face right
A lot of people think that him saying, well, I couldn't tell is him saying, well, I know, but I can't tell you. Mwahaha. He's looking at it saying, well, how would I know? He just came on board. Even if you're looking back at what occurred, he's looking at the facts in hindsight. He's got to catch up either way. So he's not doing this sleight of hand, well, I don't really know. He's saying, how would I know?
right now in law enforcement is the humanitarian crisis on the border,
This
and a lot
is what-
here in,
I think this is
El
a-
Salvador. And in 3 years,
I would like to do this whole interview, but I'm gonna make sure it's not.
Analysis and to use that to conduct counterintelligence.
All right, yeah, okay. We'll get back.
Obviously, one of the
It's an
big
abrupt
challenges
thing,
we face right now
MS-13.
in law enforcement is the humanitarian.
But I can't hate
crisis
him
on the
because an
border,
attorney general
and a
should
lot
be
of that
focusing
is
on
being
things like
driven
this. This is
by
America's
families
lawyer.
coming up from Central America. A related factor to that is the gang violence that's prevalent in these three Northern Triangle countries.
I think Pete Buttigieg's butt plug got bullied out of doing this too, which is stupid.
So, the Justice Department has
People
a
like
very
Tulsi are getting on
robust
Fox and it's
program
smart.
down
People
here
like
to
Warren and
help
all them are
the
boycotting it, which is very dumb.
government's, attack
Trump
this
didn't do
drug
that to the
problem.
left-wing
We're working
outlets.
very closely with them.
You seen success?
He wouldn't be on
There's
any.
been a lot of success. In the last 3 years, the murder rate has dropped in half here in El Salvador. And in 3 years,
So they're in El Salvador,
in the Northern
okay.
Triangle, we've been able to charge over 7,000 members of MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang. It's a great partnership we have with them, and it's helping us in the...
That's what I don't like about people that, it was Joy Reid the other night, and she said, oh, why do you want to bully Mexico? Or we really need a wall with Mexico. Or someone on our panel, we really need a wall with Mexico. Oh, sure, yeah, El Salvador is, or MS-13 is definitely not an El Salvador exclusive gang. And I'm like, you motherfuckers, it's a border country, so to speak. It's a, it's the go that you pass on monopoly of breaking into countries. You go from El Salvador, and down there in Belize and stuff, you have to go through Mexico to get to the United States. So eventually they're all going to end up at that border, unless you're fucking swimming through the Gulf. It's just so disingenuous.
United States, because MS-13 gang members that we can get down here are
This
not
is
going to
his
be
first
coming up
interview
to
too,
the
by the
United
way,
States.
as AG.
And also the intelligence we gather here because we have a big program here to support their wiretapping and other kinds of intelligence down here. We can use that to prosecute MS-13 members in the United States. For example, in last August, we prosecuted 6 MS-13 members in New Jersey using intelligence that was gathered down here.
How do you think John Brennan and James Clapper handled the Russian investigation?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate about the facts because I don't know the facts.
This would be so tempting for me to say.
I know some facts, but it's premature.
Or to not say.
Can you tell us what the Steele dossier?
Because we know.
With this? What role did that play?
Well, that's one of the questions, that we're going to have to look at. It's a very
PISStopher
Squeale situation.
PISStopher Squeale from
opposition research like
MI6,
that, especially one that
Britain.
on its face.
What they used is 5 eyes. It's a surveillance pact that we have. It's 5 countries. I think it's in the Anglosphere, as they say, or something like that, meaning white, English speaking, whatever. It's Canada, United States, New Zealand, Australia, and Great Britain, or the UK, United Kingdom. And that's how they got Alexander Downer. You hear his name a lot. He was someone that was providing quote-unquote information. He's from Australia. He would fall into the 5 eyes. He could spy on American citizens as Australia and then just give it to the U.S. anyways, and vice versa. This is our way of getting around spying on our own people. Oh, you can't do that. We actually can. It's just through an intermediary. And this is what happened with the Christopher Steele. I call him PISStopher Squeale, and I would love for him to come over here so he could be executed. If the law allows it. I'm not calling for it, but if the law allows it, and that's the proper punishment, because the son of a bitch in UK had a bee in his bonnet over Trump and spread all this misinformation and allegations of piss tape, the PP tape. None of that's been verified. The media will run with it. It'll say Trump's long blonde, hawkish-looking hair was flowing in the wind while he's getting peed on by hookers. The media will go, "Aha! Trump has kind of light blonde hair. Yeah, it's been verified." It's all a bunch of horse shit. And PISStopher Squeale, because he's a spook, squeal like a pig. He needs to be investigated too. Bring him over here, and Alexander Downer. And Veselnitskaya. Look how many countries were helping to attack Trump and us as American people to overturn an election, and they want to talk about foreign influence. Tell them to suck it.
Had a number of clear mistakes and a somewhat jejune analysis, and to use that to conduct counterintelligence against an American political campaign is would be a strange development. I'm not sure what role it played, but that's something we have to look at.
Do you smell a rat in this at this point?
I don't know if I'd describe it a rat. I would just say that.
Good answer.
He
looks real
the
professional.
Answers I'm getting are not sufficient.
Just to follow up on that.
I want to say before, there's lines in here that you'll hear, and the way he carries himself. And I know that's not petty in the sense of he went there, but people kind of act like it's posh and stuff. Of course, anybody would say, well, I wouldn't want to call him a rat, and he probably does it in behind closed doors. I don't know, and I don't care. But just whether you think he did that on purpose or not, like a play, or he really is that type of guy, he's coming across as sympathetic. Barr, especially the people like me who have been looking for someone that will at least pretend or to showcase that, or get the look that they are going to do something, right? They're going to do something about all this illegal spying, and I don't want to say bullying, that's such a pussy word, but hazing almost Trump campaign with political operatives and spies. But I think he's the best pick that Trump's had so far as in his personnel. Compare him to Sessions. Whitaker was pretty good, but he wasn't going to be permanent. A.G. Barr, he came out of nowhere. I didn't know much about the guy. I've done my research on him. There's some stuff, like I said, the Fourth Amendment and the Second Amendment, he's differs from me or a lot of people in the Trump movement. But we got to look at it this way: it's like a sports player, Kobe Bryant or LeBron, right? They could hate each other. Let's just say, for the example, they're at the same time. If they get drafted onto another team, it doesn't matter that he's called him names or he's talked shit about him and his playing style when they were opposing teams. They're on the same team now. And they're not worried about that one dunk in the game where, you know, all the shit talk started and, oh, you got posterized. Same with Barr and his past rulings on things. We can look at that, but we got to make sure that we're looking at it now, in the now, because that stuff doesn't affect this collusion stuff that's being busted up now, this narrative that was falling through from the beginning. We have to let him and trust him in what he's being tasked to do right now, which is not of those natures. We can get to that later, you know, after this is done, or, you know, Lord willing, all this stuff actually does. You know, the hammer comes down. Criminals everywhere mad. So, mad as fuck.
Republicans have said for months that these men, Brennan, Clapper, maybe James Comey, had it in for Trump. Do you think that's true?
I do.
Again, I'm not going to speculate.
He insulted them.
In the period of time between election,
And that's cool about Barr, is that he doesn't do that because he does it professional. But like not in a perfect world, but even in now's world, this fallen world we're in, that's such a no shit question. And I'm not talking about the guy. Like, don't ask it. America knows. Like, whether you believe it or not, you know that what they're talking about. You know that that's a chip in the on the table. That one more little angle to the story is that Brennan and all of them dislike Trump. Same, you know, I would say the same with Obama and Hillary, because Trump embarrassed Obama and talked a lot of shit to him too. So there's some animus between all these people.
in the inauguration.
They don't believe that there's animus towards, you know, Trump, but on the other way around, the media will love to do fake news stories and say, yeah, Trump made sure that he peed in the bed that Obama had stayed in, and the PISStopher, to go back to that bullshit. So that they act like on one end that someone is, you know, vindictive, Trump to the other, but the other to Trump, no, it could never be, never.
Did anyone in government or in intelligence, did they take action to justify their decisions?
Between election day, did you say?
Between election day of 2016 in November and inauguration day.
I think there were some very strange developments during that period. That's one of the things we want to look into.
Such as
the handling of the meeting on January 6th between the intelligence
This is
chiefs
the
and the
wiretap.
president, and the leaking of information subsequent to that meeting.
Was that meeting in New York City?
Yes.
In Trump Tower?
Yes.
What questions do you have about what
See, that's the
happened
Don
that day?
Jr.
Again, I'm not going to get into that.
But it's on your mind.
That's one of the things we need to look at.
Can you characterize how far advanced you are in understanding that meeting?
We're still in the stage of gathering all the information.
Remember what the president's position has been from the beginning. Called it a hoax.
Still
called it a
gathering
witch hunt,
information.
and I asked the Attorney General about that.
Watch this answer. This is one of them talking about that makes me, I'm glad he's in
Decided
there.
not to attempt to subpoena or force the issue with the president. So he made that judgment. I did say the White House cooperated, and what I was referring to there was the truly unprecedented delivery of information in the form of millions of pages of documents and the ability to interview White House staff, including the president's White House counsel, with no holds barred, no privilege claim.
He said it.
Or anything.
No holds barred. He said
that
it.
was unprecedented, and that's what I was.
Look out. I got to do it. Sorry, guys. I got to do it. No holds fucking barred. No way out. No holds barred. Justice from the top robes. Oh, my God. This is going to be great. I mean, even if it's just Democrats tripping, right? It's fun to see people that are afraid. That deserve it. That deserve it. How long have I been going? Nah, 28. What? Trump change.
Was referring to when I said the White House.
So you find that satisfactory on behalf of the White House?
It's more than satisfactory. And Bob Mueller obviously felt it was satisfactory. He reached his conclusions in this report.
Bam.
Let me come back
No
to that
indictments
point.
either.
The president calls this a witch hunt. He calls it a hoax. Would you agree with that?
Well, as I've said, if you were the president, I think you would view it as a witch hunt and a hoax.
Very good.
Because at the time he was saying he was innocent and that he was being falsely accused, and that's.
See, even if Barr doesn't agree with that, he knows that if he was the president, which is who they're asking about, no shit, he would think it's a witch hunt. Even if it was, you know, in O.J. Simpson, when he clearly did it, if he said, I think this is a witch hunt, he would say, well, based off his own beliefs, he thinks he's being prosecuted or maligned, right? So that's not a wrong answer. And plus, it's not wrong because it's true. This was a witch hunt.
if you're falsely accused, you would think that something was a witch hunt. I have to say,
See?
when you step back and look at this, two and a half years of his administration, 3 years of Trump, the campaign and the first part of his administration, he has been hammered for something, for allegedly conspiring with the Russians.
I really
That
like
we
this.
now know that was simply false.
Are you comfortable using those words?
Good job, Barr.
Witch hunt, hoax.
I use what words I use, and it was an investigation, but I think if I had been falsely accused, I'd be comfortable saying it was a witch hunt.
You
Awesome.
mentioned Bob Mueller a few moments ago. Were you surprised that he came back with no recommendation on that obstruction charge? That surprised
No
you?
indictments.
Yes, that surprised me. Because the function of a prosecutor is to make a call one way or the other.
Did you ask him why?
Yeah, we discussed it.
What did he say?
Well, I already have said that we met on March 5th before he delivered the report, and he gave an explanation for it, and it's pretty much reflected in the report.
You're okay with him testifying?
Absolutely.
He works for you?
Yes.
Or under you?
Yes.
Or did? What seems to be the holdup? Jerry Nadler said this week it will happen
That'd be
soon.
so funny.
Perhaps
Watch the
it happens in
Democrats turn
June
on
or
him.
not. Do you have any information on that?
Mueller
My
was God,
understanding
remember?
is that Chairman Nadler is talking this over with Bob Mueller and
Caterpillar
his
eyebrows.
staff and trying to schedule it.
So you expect it to happen?
I have no reason to think it won't.
Do you believe members of Mueller's team around him put pressure on him to include certain aspects in that report?
I don't want to speculate because I just don't know.
Do you believe he gave in any of that pressure?
I don't want to speculate. I really wasn't there to watch the interaction of his staff.
Yeah, a lot of this now, just a bit of context here with regard to the Mueller stuff. There's a piece in the Wall Street Journal just this morning. It went online last night.
I didn't catch the Salvador the
about
first time I watched this
hold-up with
before
Bob Mueller's
I'm filming,
testimony
you
in the
know.
House. There could be executive
Makes
privilege matters
MS-13 makes
that would
sense now.
prevent Bob Mueller from answering a lot of these questions. So there's a debate as to when this happens, and some are making a case that it could be pushed off even further. I think the first part of that answer, though, needs a little bit of context as well. Democrats have been levying heavy charges against Bob Mueller, saying that he's protecting the president. He's doing all the
So
spinning
they
here.
turned on him already
Because
like
he
that.
said the White House fully cooperated with the Mueller investigation, but there was no sit-down
They're the kid that when
interview.
their mom
It
gives
was
them
only
discipline
a
or dad, they
question
say, I don't
answer,
love you
only
anymore, you're not
in
my
writing.
parent.
Remember, this was the focus of Rudy Giuliani and Jay Sekulow, the president's attorneys, for about a year's time. They did not want the president to sit down, fearing a perjury trap on behalf of those on
That's
the special
smart.
counsel.
One
So a little
off
more
thing and you're
context on that.
screwed. It was
Now
smart.
we move into more criticism on behalf of
To avoid
Democrats.
that.
Remember, Nancy Pelosi calls him out as a liar for his testimony on the Hill back in April and the 1st and 2nd of May.
Damn.
Now, just this week it happens that Bill Barr and Nancy Pelosi saw each other in Capitol Hill. Let's go back to this exchange.
Watch
starting
this
with
shit.
the House Speaker.
Let's move further into that aspect of this, because you are being heavily criticized by Democrats, by the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She believes you lied under oath. What do you think of that?
He looks like Drippy Dog. I love
I
him.
think it's a laughable charge, and I think it's largely being made to try to discredit me, partly because they may be concerned about the outcome of a review of what happened during the election.
What does that mean?
That means they may be trying to undermine my credibility.
You
But
see him trying not to smile?
obviously, you can look at the face of my testimony and see on its face that there was nothing inaccurate about it.
You,
That's right. He's got a
reportedly had
good record, and
conversations with
he was bipartisanly. A great deal of people signed him in and said he's a good pick for AG. He's like an old guard right winger, which is, I'm a new age, I guess you'd call it, but that's what scared a lot of us, is that he was a neocon. But like I said a few minutes ago in this video, that he's not being tasked right now, at least, with the gun laws and other things, and he's just here to wrap up to investigate the investigators, which I trust him on when it comes to that. He's got a cool voice too, for some reason. You watch all these people get sworn in and all these 4-hour-long testimonies, and sometimes you're just like, this sucks, this Congress hearing. He's got a very good narrator's voice, I will say that.
this week.
Yes.
What did you say to her?
I wouldn't call it a conversation. It was more like an icebreaker.
Nancy.
I, was introduced, and I asked her if she had brought her handcuffs with her.
To arrest him, because she was talking shit. I'm surprised the old bird didn't say, what is that supposed to mean? Are you threatening to jail me? I wouldn't be surprised if Nancy did that.
She said,
I didn't really quite hear what she said, but she wasn't unpleasant about it.
What she will say, and Democrats will say, is that you were spinning on behalf of the president with the principal conclusions that you released. They leveled charges that
The president's his boss. He's supposed to defend him when he's legally okay, which is now. So he's spinning
No,
now.
it wasn't. I think what they're really perhaps annoyed about is that they didn't have an opportunity to spin, and that the fundamental findings of the report were out there for everybody to see.
You hear that? He said they were mad because they couldn't get there in time to spin it, which is true. People like Schiff and all these people are saying, we can't see it, we can't see it. Yes, you can. There's Schiff machines. You can go down there and read classified information. You just can't take it out. And you can inform people accordingly. And Schiff is refusing. All of them are refusing to go down there or either pretending like they haven't. There's no way they haven't after 2 weeks. And so that's what all this was so laughable about when they said that they're hiding, they're redacting, they're doing this.
And they were not in a position to spin.
Bill Hemmer covering a lot of ground in his interview with Bill Barr, including his relationship with the president. Take a listen here.
Here we go.
I didn't know him before. I had only met with him, really a substantive discussion with him at the time he decided to appoint me Attorney General. But I think we have a good, candid relationship.
Just one more question on that.
Oh, no.
You met with him in the Oval Office?
No, I met with him in the residence.
In the residence. And that went well?
Yeah.
Did he hire you on the spot?
I'm not going to get into the...
The reason I ask you that is Democrats would charge that you are the president's attorney now.
They don't know what they're talking about.
See, that's really good the way he didn't get into personal stuff, because the more personal stuff you let go, the more people can say, aha, Trump told him a joke and he laughed. He's in the bag for Trump. You know how they are.
Well, he talks about, before we close out our 3-hour broadcast, just want to bring you a little more of our interview with Bill Barr as he talks about, well, he's known Bob Mueller for a very long time. Let's go to that right now.
When did you speak with him last? Correspond with him?
The last I talked to him was, I think, the Thursday after he delivered his report, when we had a telephone call. But there's no...
He's trying to remember
been
left side of the
several
brain.
Yeah, but there's no... That's not because of any strain between us or anything.
Your relationship goes back 30...
See, you hear that? That's what I did earlier. As, oh, you haven't been on there a month. And he's playing devil's advocate, but everybody's going, they haven't talked in a month. Like, they're supposed to be working together like that closely, and they're busy. Watch this.
Several weeks.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, but there's no... That's not because of any strain between us or anything.
Your relationship goes back 30 years. How is it today?
I haven't had the opportunity to spend much time with him since he took on the assignment. I haven't spent time with him since
nice catch.
On the assignment, but I would...
You hear that? He said, I haven't had much time, too. That still means he hasn't. But there's linguistic play, and a lawyer like him knows that, to say, but he never said he didn't. Listen to this catch.
How is it today?
I haven't had the opportunity to spend much time with him since he took on the assignment. I haven't spent time with him on the assignment, but I would say we're still friends.
Another topic here on his relationship with the president. There's been a lot of criticism from Democrats saying that he's doing the president's work. We asked about that as well.
The reason I asked you that is Democrats would charge that you are the president's attorney now.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
Did you think that Eric Holder was the attorney for President Obama?
I think Eric Holder at times did act that way, but attorneys generals are frequently accused of that.
Is it like Bobby Kennedy and JFK from the early 60s?
I mean, attorneys general are accused of being that way, but I'm not sure exactly what they're referring to. Well, when I was up for confirmation, I promised that I was going to make the report available. I didn't have to. The report was supposed to be confidential. I said I would err on the side of transparency. I got it out. There were minimal redactions. Every American can now read it to their heart's
You can actually figure out who they're talking about. It's so unredacted. And
Listen up.
very good job from Barr, because he's taking the approach of just being chill.
Times did act that way, but attorney generals are frequently accused of
See.
that.
Is it like Bobby Kennedy and JFK?
Up for confirmation, I promised that I was going to make the report.
He was overwhelmingly voted in. We're at 39-31 here. I think I got time to do this one here. This is the Geneva. This is on how Comey, Clapper, and Brennan want to pay the Barr bill.
Former U.S. Attorney Joe DeGeneva, House Oversight Committee ranking member Jim Jordan, and former Deputy Independent Counsel Robert Ray. Doesn't get better than this tonight. Joe, what does the impressive scope of this new
Joe's a fucking thug. I love him.
Initiated by Barr tell us tonight?
James Comey, Brennan, and Clapper have said to themselves, which one of us is going to pay the Barr bill?
There you go.
The Barr bill is coming due, and Durham's appointment means
It's a pretty good
that
pun.
the already occurred meetings between the Attorney General, the CIA Director, and the Director of National Intelligence have now focused on a laser that the core of this conspiracy began with John Brennan and ends with John Brennan in London and D.C. and the Democratic National Committee. This is very serious business, and for the first time, I now believe that some of these guys are going to go to prison.
Damn. I'm not just overacting.
Brennan tonight.
That's
and Congressman
people
Jordan.
don't say that.
We got some profound sound from both Brennan and Clapper. This was Brennan today explaining what's going on with this new probe. Let's watch.
It went through a rigorous due process.
It's our Bond villain right
The
there,
Department of Justice,
Brennan.
the FBI. It was approved by the FISA court. It went through all of those steps. What they're trying to do is to uncover something that they will misrepresent as being part of this deep state effort to try to undermine Donald Trump's election.
It was all copacetic.
God, that ugly
Congressman,
woman.
It was approved.
On,
It went through the FISA
MSN
court.
or wherever
You're
that was.
investigating the investigators. It's an embarrassment. You heard it.
She
No,
hit
he
the
used
wall.
the term misrepresent. The only misrepresentation is what they did
There's
with
Jordan.
with the dossier in front of the FISA court, where they didn't tell the court who paid for the document. They didn't tell the court that the guy who wrote it, PISStopher Squeale, was desperate.
How serious
to
is
stop
this
Trump.
tonight? I mean, the other networks are.
See, Christopher Squeale was
This is fantasy
destined
land for
to stop
I think
Trump.
conservatives.
this is very serious. I think it's Bill Barr doing what he said. Remember, when he was in front of the Senate Finance Committee 4 weeks ago, he said he was serious about putting together a team to get to the bottom of this. He said there was
You better.
4 key things. There was a failure of leadership at the upper echelon of the FBI. We know that's true. He said spying
call me.
took place. He said it twice. He said there's a basis for his concern about the spying that occurred.
Right.
And finally, the
Christopher
2 terms
Squeale.
used, I said this last week in the committee hearing, he used 2 terms that should scare every single American. He said unauthorized surveillance and political surveillance. Those things are
not
not
good.
supposed
That's
to
what
happen.
China does.
Exactly.
Joe,
They're
you
not
and I
supposed to
talk.
happen in
People
this
like
is
me
what
are screwed.
China does.
He
This
wants to
is
get to
what
the bottom
Russia
of it.
does. They're and Robert Ray, I got to get you in on this because they accuse Trump of basically spooning with Vladimir Putin to get elected. Okay, and yet they use autocratic, dictatorial means to surveil the Trump campaign to get the information that they claimed was going to be there. Of course, it never was there. And now we have the DNI involved, and we have the CIA involved.
Compare
With a
these
man as
3 to
serious
the
as
3
Bill Barr.
at CIA.
He was not cowed one bit
And
by
call
what
me.
they tried to do to him last week, was he, Robert?
Well, Congressman Jordan is right. I mean, this isn't a question about whether the procedural steps were followed. This is a question that first is exploring bias and whether that had an impact on what was or wasn't disclosed to the FISA court, which, to answer your question, Laura, is a serious issue. There's a case in the Supreme Court about this, Franks versus Delaware, which all prosecutors and agents are familiar with. And it's a serious question now that's going to be explored by a prosecutor, after all. This
There's
is
your
not
boy.
duplicative of Michael Horowitz's investigation because the IG doesn't have prosecutorial authority to actually bring charges. But in this instance now, as the result
That's
of
funny.
Bill Barr's appointment, there is going to be an investigation, the purpose of which is to determine whether or not any crimes were committed, which is Joe DeGeneva's point.
Crimes committed.
Oh, yeah.
This is now.
DeGeneva's a thug. I wish he would be in
why
Trump's
there's
administration.
So much mud.
He may
And
do
a
better
man
on the
like Bill
outside,
Barr,
though.
With the history and the reputation he has, what's the most dangerous thing out there?
Exactly. They threw mud on Barr, and even somebody like me that was antsy about it, and I was like, why the hell would he come out of retirement to fall on a sword to do something that could screw him over, even if it's looking bad to the Democrats? He's going to make this stuff look copacetic as he can if he's coming out of retirement.
Someone who has nothing to lose. Bill Barr made a lot of money.
He
didn't need this job, right?
Bill Barr.
Never kicked the bear.
Oh, no.
And let me tell you something. Horowitz has already concluded that the final 3 FISAs were completely illegal. he's now on the brink of finding that the first FISA was completely illegal. Durham has already used a grand jury.
What Judge Genevieve here is saying is they would send people over here, like the spies I was talking about in this video, from Wrestling the Sky and all them, Russia, PISStopher Squeale, excuse me, affectionately from England, Alexander Down Syndrome Downer from Australia, Down-Under. They would send them in, or they would have cohorts like that, right? And they would send them in to talk to a Don Jr. and things like that, which we've discussed before. There's no way it didn't go through Obama and other higher upper echelons they're talking about. And then when they would go in there, they would say, hey, so-and-so talked to a Russian. So they would have a reason to spy on them. But the people that were asking for permission to spy were the ones who set the person up to get them. It's like planting drugs in someone's car as a cop just so you can have a reason to raid their house. If they find out you planted those drugs on a person, it ruins the whole thing. And so that's what he's pointing out, is that all these FISA warrants are being proven illegal because they were lied about, they were obtained illegally, they were visas and stuff were signed off on so that people could come over here and net people in and trick them. And so it just falls apart because it was disingenuous from the beginning. The people that ended up with the result they wanted to spy on the campaign were the people that sent the people in there to start with. So it's illegitimate. It's unnatural.
In Connecticut, they've already gotten documents. He's already talked to the intel people.
How long has this been going on? Do we really know how long this?
Durham's been working for a couple of months. So the bottom line is this. This is now big time.
They're also full of
This is
energy.
where Brennan needs 5 lawyers. Comey needs 5
Have they lawyered?
lawyers.
Are they lawyered up sufficiently?
Well, I hope Comey has someone other than Mr. Richmond to whom he leaked his memos, his little special
Isn't Patrick Fitzgerald the old, another prosecutor I don't like?
Nothing like a sleazy prosecutor to represent.
yeah.
Damn,
There's
Joe. Get off of him.
Conrad
Get off of him, Joe.
Horrible prosecutor.
That's the U.S. attorney who was also looking into Jim Baker, former chief counsel.
Yeah.
So that's where that investigation was also taking place. So I think that's interesting.
They tried to get
That's
him in
who
trouble
Bill Barr selected.
for being a
And it's
wrestling
not
coach.
just the
A
dossier.
bunch of
Remember
sleazy
what we learned
fuckers
2
tried to
weeks
say
ago?
that
The New York Times
he molested
reported
kids and
that the
stuff,
FBI
or
put someone
sexually
posing as someone
uncouth.
else, and by George Papadopoulos,
He
set
talked
him
about
up.
yeah.
So those are 2 cases where
Well, I
spying took place.
want to play Papadopoulos. We also have to.
Did y'all hear that? I'll rewind
Sanders
that.
was out there tonight.
Papadopoulos.
Richmond, to whom he leaked his memos, his little
Patrick
special prosecutor to represent this one.
Another horrible. He did the Conrad
Oh,
Black. He's an
Patrick
outrage.
Fitzgerald's disgusting.
Horrible prosecutor.
Also, that's the U.S. attorney who was also looking into Jim Baker, former chief counsel.
Yeah.
So that's where that investigation was also taking place. So I think that's interesting. That's who Bill Barr selected, and it's not just the dossier. Remember what we learned 2 weeks ago. The New York Times reported that the FBI put someone posing as someone else, and by George Papadopoulos,
He
set
talked
him
about
up.
yeah.
So those are 2 cases where
Well,
spying took place.
I want to play Papadopoulos. We also have to play Bernie Sanders, who was out there tonight talking about this. But
So
I
they
want to
set
play
him up.
Papadopoulos first, since you raised it, Congressman. I want to get you and Ray and Joe to talk about it. Let's watch.
I fly to Greece. I have dogs sniffing for money. I leave the money in Greece. I'm then arrested in a
I thought he was shady at first, but
with agents rummaging through my bags.
he's the
looking
key
for money.
to this
So,
whole thing.
Clearly,
He got
this
screwed.
was some sort of sting operation, and by the time it happened, the special counsel was appointed.
Now, he was caught up in this. They were dangling money at him, at least. I mean, and this was, they all knew how this was all going to go. This was all rolled out according to plan until it wasn't.
They put somebody posing as somebody else with George Papadopoulos and start asking all these questions early on in the...
My other example, this one might be better. It's like a cop that catches you on something because you let your guard down because he told you, when you asked him, are you a cop? And he said, no, I'm not a cop. If they found that out, you have to legally let someone know that you're an officer and you're on duty type of thing, or undercover even. That's how you get found out. Like, you're being dishonest to the person by saying that you're not when they have to legally tell you, right? This is what this is like, what he said. They, under false pretenses, like, oh, I'm not a spy. Not that it would come up or anything, but you were pretending to be somebody that you weren't to get results that you wouldn't have got had you not lied.
This entire investigation.
And that was what kicked it all off, supposedly, correct?
Back in July of 2016.
Right.
So Bill Barr has said he's going to get to the bottom of it. He's now appointed someone to head that team up that he said he was going to point together. That is a good thing. Let's get to the bottom of this so that nothing like this, if everything that we think happened did, this should not happen in the United States of America, and that's what we got to prevent.
And we still haven't gotten to the bottom of the Hillary Clinton email scandal, which is the other thing they have to touch. But I've got to play this Bernie Sanders, of course, one of the Democratic frontrunners.
Laura Ingram's a hard smash. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Hard smash.
Trump does all of the time. He tries to divert attention
Anderson.
from the realities and the problems that are associated
He's pretty
with the
slick.
White House, or in fact, his campaign. You know,
For spook, CIA
understand
spook.
it. What the FBI did is they had reason to believe that there was collusion, and they investigated that collusion. So no, I don't think we should be investigating the investigators.
Of course not, but it's true on the other foot. He'd be doing a candlelight
Oh
vigil
no,
right now, Rob.
right. Bernie Sanders, I'm registered independent, but I'll tell you where I lean. Bernie Sanders will still advocate or advertise himself as an independent even coming up into 2020 if he runs. We know where you lean. It's to the left. If you try to say you're down the middle, I just can't stand people who try to pretend they're down the middle. And every time something happens and it's bad on Democrats, they complain. But when it's on Republicans, they go, well, whatever. It's like we clearly know where you line. Someone who's like a chaotic neutral who doesn't fucking care as long as the whole thing burns down or whatever. They have no allegiance. They are legit, but they're almost anarchistral. They don't respect government enough to not like any of them. So that's not a centrist type of person. Or, you know, I'll tell you where I go. Someone like Bernie with the independent is funny. He's too far left for the Democrats. Well, not now, but he was. That's why he had to do the independent. That's why I would have chose independent back in the day, because I was a little softer right. I may be farther right than Republican now, so either way.
Robert, as a former independent counsel, do you agree with Bernie here?
No, I mean, the president is right at the conclusion of the investigation. The Mueller investigation is over. To wonder how we got on this path to start with. I mean, isn't
His
that
nose
an
is
appropriate
round,
question
his
to
mind
ask?
is
I mean, I'm
angled.
not going to prejudge the outcome. I think, you know, unlike Democrats, you know, there's no point in singing about what may come or what
Railroad Robert,
prosecutions may unfold, but clearly it warranted a second look. That was why there was an IG investigation, and now the handoff is complete. It's now in the hands of a prosecutor with prosecutorial authority who will make a decision about whether or not any crimes were committed and whether or not it's appropriate to bring charges against those who were responsible. I mean, that's what you expect the Department of Justice to do, don't you? I mean, that's what I expect the Department of Justice to do.
Preach.
Sign off on phony dossiers.
I mean,
Joe,
Bill Barr said it was a big deal. It is a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal.
It is a big freaking
Who
deal.
wants to care about civil liberties, no matter whose civil liberties were being tread upon? Trod upon? Tread upon? Trod upon. Thank you, Joe. But they used to care about this, right? Yeah, okay, anything. I'm doing that with my kids' essays every night. Checking their grammar. I got to check my own. But I got to ask about something. This Don Jr. deal. They
Helps the children with homework. Has the cross on the necklace. Single fellas, damn. I mean, I can't do the older woman thing because it would be like a mother-son Oedipus type of thing. But hey, you should be swooping her up, fellas in Washington, unless you're all gay.
For him to testify for the Senate Intel Committee, Richard Burr in his saddle.
TJT
what is going
Jr.
on?
I would have told him to stick it.
Me
and
too.
I would
Why
have and I would
is
have
Don
taken the fifth.
Why is
You know
Don
what?
Don Jr. doing that?
Prophylactic use of the fifth. Look,
I
what's
would
going
never have
on
agreed.
now in the House and the Senate with Richard Burr, who is a disgusting Republican chairman.
Get him.
I'm so sick of Richard Burr.
I'm from
Burr,
NC.
phony Republican from North Carolina.
He's really fucked us.
Don Jr. has every right to believe that what's happening is abusive and vindictive, just like everything.
We'll
that's
remember
going on
this,
in the
Richard
House.
Burr.
No citizen has to take that. They can invoke the Fifth Amendment because they're innocent and don't want to be put through a perjury.
They didn't have any problem.
Dude, no lie, dude. I'm in North Carolina, and I've heard people talk about it that I'm with. They are pissed the fuck off at Richard Burr. Good luck getting reelected. Because it was one of those slimy things. It's something that like a Flake would do from Arizona or a McCain. I mean, God, come on, man.
Put through a perjury.
They didn't have any problem with Lois Lerner invoking the Fifth.
Mark Warner's running that committee,
Right.
Democrat.
That's
They're
embarrassing.
calling him back based on the testimony of a guy who went to prison last Monday for lying to Congress. When he came in front of our committee,
Yeah, Michael
97
Cohen.
times.
That's so funny. They proved Michael Cohen a liar, and then they brought him back in just because he had quote-unquote more stuff on Trump. But if you already figured out he's a quote-unquote liar, that's going to poke holes in everything you try to do from the beginning. They're just so desperate.
That makes no sense.
Guys, I could do a whole hour with this
Makes
panel.
no sense.
Love this panel. Thank you so much, all three of you.
Your
Alright,
face
guys.
is your moneymaker.
Sweet. What up? What up? We're back here. It's been a good 54 minutes, under an hour. I love the ramble. I can't lie. I'm going to be going into the next week, working my ass off. I'm going to try to get some videos out. Political Dank House. You know the drill. Here's all my tags. Instagram, Twitter, L1 Humperdinck is an alias, but you know my name. I mean, I'm straight doxed right here, so let me know what you think. Let me know what you think on, are you excited? Do you think things will happen? Or are you like me, you know, I don't know, maybe stuff will happen. Whether it does or not, it's funny to see the Democrats say, oh, shit, and say, oh, there's nothing going on, but also be afraid. Well, what have you got in that box? Well, nothing. Well, let's just check. Oh, no. There's nothing in there. It's just funny to watch the tell. And so, peace out. Stay hopping.